Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 699, recorded live on March 18th, 2023. I'm your host, Kaleva, and with me this week are guests Axel, Alex K, and Zidit. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, or from our website at DDOcast.com. Audio portions of the show are also available on Spotify. DDOcast is hosted by Buzzsprout, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will be a pre-recorded show on the 25th of March because I will be coming back from PAX East. So it won't be available on Saturday, but we'll have a show for you that Saturday. It'll just be pre-recorded. And you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com. All right. So on the podcast this week, I do have two guests, Axel and Zidit. Axel is a content creator. Zidit is the host of the DDO DM Podcast. And go ahead and ask those guys to introduce themselves. So, hey, Axel, if you could give a quick introduction now that we're live, that would be appreciated. And then after that, Zidit, if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Oh yeah, sure. Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Axel. I'm a DDO content creator and streamer. Yeah, just like the game, I'm glad to be here to talk to the new host.
I'm the new guy, the FNG as it is. Is it? And I'm just here to talk about the accolade of the skin.
All right, I appreciate you guys coming on. So we'll start with Zidit. The Accolade of the Skin is one of the new archetypes. As a personally, I like the Warlock class, but I haven't really been a big fan of what the Accolade of the Skin offers. So what exactly is it that you like about the Accolade of the Skin?
I'm glad you asked. What I like about it is kind of it's the design of it. I think is opposite of what is in the game now. So in the game now, players are kind of, I'm not going to say forced, but the point of a video game is to reach the end, and the end of our video game is Reaper 10. So players are forced to design characters for that end game. And I think what the Accolade of the Skin does, at least from from a gameplay perspective, it doesn't force you down just a straight numbers thing. It allows you to like use abilities in a certain fashion. Like I had this all planned out.
Hmm.
All right, so
Yeah.
from my perspective, Accolade of the Skin it's like a debuff bruiser kind of class. So it's got strong DPS and it's high survivability. And I think the fun parts of the gameplay are being able to marry its debuff capabilities uh, with its with the power of the Drink Your Fear enhancement. So kind of the whole point of the class, I guess, is at tier 4 because it's kind of Eldritch Blast focused, and then Drink Your Fear doubles your pack damage. So it's kind of what you're trying to do to make the class work. In order to do that, there's many different ways you can do that in the game, and it's like a it's almost like a rotation in a typical MMO, but because DDO is so diverse, you can kind of get there in different ways and still be successful applying that enhancement. That's what I think is fun about it.
Yeah, so with the increased the pack dice and all that stuff is great. I do apologize. Wasn't the viewers weren't able to hear you guys properly, so I was adjusting some settings while you were talking. But the end game, or when the build is when you're level 32, that's where you think the archetype really comes in to power. I want to make sure I summarize what you said right.
Sure. You can't summarize what I said probably well because I was all over the place. But so I played the game a lot, probably up until 2011, 2012. So I'm pretty familiar with like Giant Hold, right? I'm not too familiar with end game content now, but I still have a character that's got, I don't know, I think I have like 9 racial pass lives left, and I'm completionist for the classes, and I'm completionist for Epic TR. So I know the game in a leveling sense pretty well, but I've always stayed away from endgame because I had played endgame before, and I just was not interested in getting into it again. So, especially with the advent of Reaper, I think right before Reaper came out, I was starting to really enjoy the game. And then, they change things a lot. And sometimes when they change things that you put a lot of time into something and now it doesn't work. So I was like, in order for me to enjoy the game, I'll just stick to the TR process because I enjoy that. Really think is a lot of fun. So I'm actually, I've stayed at 32 the longest probably since, just trying to figure out, because I love it so much that there's such a mixed review on it. Like some people say it's great, some people say it's bad. I know there was an R10 completion posted on the forums, and there's an accolade of the skin. At least he he didn't have the enlightened spirit. We know that. We don't know what his build was, but so I think there's probably some interesting mechanics that play that are unexplored, and I'm interested to see what just what it can do itself, and then later how you can potentially marry that into a multi-class. But I'm so new at the end game that I'm just learning. I'm just getting some pieces of Isle of Dread, and I'm learning about the spell crit thing is, you know, crazy. And so as far as end game mechanics, I've only been there for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So
Yeah, and that's one of the things with the game in general is that there's like the two parts of it, like you were mentioning, leveling, and then the end game. And as far as me, I'm more of a just like a leveling player type. I spend a little bit of time at end game, but not a lot. And so the accolade of the skin, what I tested with it on Lamania, it didn't feel as much fun as like the regular blaster did for me. So
Yeah, I haven't played it myself, but I've heard mixed things. I've been watching Boo stream a bit, watching him play it.
yeah, I egged him on a little bit this week, but one of the things I like about it is the fear proc. I actually don't know, and I've tried to test it on like sturdy mobs, how to figure out that they're being debuffed and I'm getting the double pack damage with the combat log open, and I can't seem to nail it down when that's happening. But I know the kind of like there's a fun rotation that I use to apply negative will saves, fort saves, and then continue to apply fear all throughout that rotation. So that the whole point of it is to debuff and apply the fear effect at the same time. So you're you're trying to get that pack damage doubled as soon as you can. That's where when I figured that started up, it worked really well. Like probably 15 to 24, those level ranges, and that's when I figured out why they put the beam in, because the beam, everybody's I don't get it, I don't get it. Well, when you fear, like, so you have 10 mobs around you and you fear 4 of them, and you pick 2 of them, you get the furthest one out, you're trying to hit that mob other mobs are still trying to close melee and you're backing up, you're still able to get the double pack damage on the guy that's running away and do damage at the mobs that are closing in on you. So it becomes really fun. By the time they get close, you're already starting your fear rotation again. So the mobs that are close are, at least they're shaken and then they're feared. So it's a lot of fun. It's like it's just a different way to play the game, and it requires a little bit of thought process, like what buttons you're going to hit in what order, and not just like, oh well, here comes an incoming spell, I better put this on, or I completely negate it with this ability. It's not that kind of a play style, and that's what I kind of like about it. The issue is you roll with a sorcerer or some DC caster, and all of a sudden the weird goes up, and there goes 5 mobs. And you don't have a chance to do anything, so you're just dragon breath and kind of holy balling everything as well. So.
Yeah, and I do know there's some mixed reviews, like Tough RPG in chat is saying that he doesn't particularly care for it. I want to like it, but we'll see. I do need to give it the proper shake, as it were. But it's just one of the things that I really like about DDO just in general is all the different character builds and the play styles that it can support. The like infinite character customization. So, and I think maybe as time goes on, the longer the Acolyte of the Skin is out, and more people play it and start experimenting, like you mentioned earlier, with multi-classing it and trying to pull some of the abilities out of it to see what type of synergies there are, then I think more people might start to warm up to it.
Well, and the other thing that I would add is that it's kind of hard for me to complain too much about the archetypes, just because they are, so, at least so far, they are all free. So if nothing else, even if they're bad, it's still at least just a different way to play the game. And the only one I've played so far is Dark Apostate, but that's kind of been my mindset as I went into it. I'm like, okay, maybe this is, I don't know how good it's going to be, but at least it's going to be a different way to play the game, and it's free. So how can I complain that much,
Yeah, for sure. I do like that they're all free, and I think I've played the Dark Apostate a little bit. I don't want to say I wasn't a big fan of it, but I think it would work better in a multi-class, and I don't want to. That's 2 archetypes so far that I said I'm not a big fan of, but so far I really do like the Sacred Fist. That is a lot of fun for me to play. But just the archetypes in general, I don't know if they'll work out as good as the regular classes did. Like the Dark Apostate is as good as a cleric will be for me personally, or even like the Acolyte of the Skin as a pure warlock. I'm leaning more towards they're going to be really good for the multi-class builds. So I'm just trying to, letting the community figure out what is going to be good and bad about them, because I think it's the Dark Hunter people have been splashing into other builds and having some success with.
Yeah, possibly. I haven't myself tried it. I've just tried it on pure. I haven't tried to multi-class any of these yet.
I did play the Dark Apostate pure, I think 3 times, and then I tried the Sacred Fist. I multi-classed that thing to some success, and I had a lot of fun with the Sacred Fist too.
Yeah, and if I'm being completely honest with the Sacred Fist, one of my favorite things to do is to run up to a pack of mobs and hit the whirlwind. I just love that spinning kick animation. That's I don't know, it's like a little thing, but I really like it, and so it's fun.
I love that they kind of brought in the Kalash Jar, even though they can't or they won't. I like that they brought them in with the Sacred Fist.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Sacred Fist looks cool. I want to try it at some point.
Yeah, so far it's been a lot of fun. I'm only at level 5 with it, and I plan on being pure. The character that I'm playing it on also does have a couple of monk past lives, so that may be influencing some of its power a little bit, especially for the unarmed damage. But
build that was on the forums, and that was a load of fun, man. That was a lot of fun to play.
If y'all want to hear something funny, I read about someone on the forums who tried to this is more for flavor and just for fun. But so if you run a Dark Apostate, you lose the Radiant Servant tree, but if you run a Sacred Fist, you get the Radiant Servant tree. So I saw someone who I think splashed like 5 levels of Sacred Fist on a Dark Apostate to get Radiant Servant back. So you could have like 2 auras. I thought that was really funny and creative. I don't know how well it worked. Probably not too well, but it's funny that you can actually do that. Actually get the tree back that you lose.
yeah.
One thing.
Oh, go ahead.
One thing I think about the Dark Apostate that we haven't mentioned yet is when you're playing with somebody else that has one, and just out of the corner of your eye in the dark hallway, you're like, oh shit, there's a Reaper, and you turn around and it's just old boy casting a destruction spell right behind you, and that's the fun part of it too.
Yeah, and Axel mentioned or used a keyword there with flavor for archetypes, and I think that's a lot of, or I don't want to say a lot, but a big draw to them is that they're giving you more options, and again, we already had so many options, and now we have even more. There's just so many options for character building, and you can play most any build the way that you want to. So I think that's great for the game in general. But at the same time, I also know that there is some talk or people complain, quote unquote, complain that it's not as because DDO has such a steep learning curve to it. So what are your guys' opinions or thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these haven't been out too long. I mean, maybe the community will discover more optimal ways to play them. That's totally possible.
I love all the new archetypes, and I think that this is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart because I love DDO, and I think that we should be making tons and tons of money off it, and everybody should play it. I think the issue is if you're a new player and you see some of these things, these characters, and you build one and you play one, and you play one for 2.5 weeks, and you get to level 6 or 7, and you just love the game. You start playing with someone that's, like Axel, and he's awesome, right? He just destroys the quest and he gets you to level 12 in one night, and you're like, wow, this is kind of awesome because I just spent 2 weeks getting to level 7, so I don't feel, I got a lot to learn. But then he tells you that you talk about your build and you find out that your build is subpar, you find out that your feats are subpar, your gear is subpar, and you should just finish getting to level 32, and then you can TR and you can fix everything, and then you can keep doing that until you're perfect, right? And I think if you're 2 weeks into the game, you shouldn't be learning or even thinking about that kind of stuff. Because I know when I played back in 2006, we didn't think about that stuff. And we only had to worry about getting to level 10. So the struggle with DDO is that it is kind of so infinite in scope for the new player. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like the Reaper system, is it because that's what they're going to talk about. Like if you run with a veteran player, they're going to be like, oh, we got to get Reaper points. Oh, you got to get this. You have to get Reaper points. That's the only way to play. And maybe some people will say, just play on hard first, because I've heard people suggest that. Well, you should just play on hard, and then you can play on elite. And that's all well and good, but now they're like 6 years before they touch Reaper mode, man. Like, you got to get them into the game. So that's the issue to me, is that it's just so off-putting to a new player. They have so much fun, and then they realize, oh, I can't play this guy. I have to, if I want to play this, I have to, start over, and I have to get to the end of the game. I got to find that piece of loot and do this kind of thing. And that now we've gone from infinite possibilities to extremely restrictive, and that's what I don't like.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that's just really like talking about the game, but it is It is hard, I think, myself included, but other vets to really see the game from a new player's perspective because this game is so incredibly deep. Like, and it's really hard for us to see that. Those of us that have been playing the game for a decade or more, like, when you come in this game as a new player, I mean, it's going to take you legitimately, like, I don't know, a year of playing it regularly to really learn all the ins and outs of it, if not more than that. So it's okay, and I know Severlin in his one of his recent Q&As kind of talked about it's okay, just let new players play suboptimal builds and just play on normal. It's totally fine. I mean, especially when you're a new player and you're playing on a 28 point, 32 point build, you can level on normal just fine. The XP curve is for a first life character is really forgiving, so it's not you really don't have to worry about optimizing. And if you get to level 20, you want a TR at that point, maybe you start optimizing second, third life, but it's totally fine to not being like on the best build your first life. It's more about, I think as a new player, it's more about just having fun, because if you're not having fun, not having a good experience, then you're not going to stay with the game. And that's why I always try to tell new players, and they say, what build should I play? What class should I play? I'm like, you really, the best thing for you to do is to play whatever build and whatever class, whatever style interests you the most, because that's going to get you to actually get interested in the game and to want to actually keep with it. Where if you play something you just that may be powerful, but you're just not interested in it, you're just going to quit. So
And I agree with your perspective. I think that's a good perspective, but the reality is the game's huge. It's way too big, and they're going to get info dumped like a exposition in a bad novel or a bad movie. It's just going to come, and they're going to have to make a decision like, what, I don't have time for this, or I don't care about it. And that's why I totally agree with your perspective. Getting them to buy into their character and to have some purchase there is the best way to keep a new player. But inevitably, when you like your character and enjoy your character, you want him to be the best, and that's going to lead them inevitably to an end game that's extremely restrictive. It doesn't allow for much wiggle room, and that's what I like about the acolyte, is that the whole point is it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, because the pack damage, like I said, is not it's not enough. If it's doubling, I haven't been able to figure it out, and I've tested it a lot. But you could use many different spells and abilities or combinations of abilities to achieve the effect that's built into the tree itself, or to enhance it and and make the drink your fear kind of thing work, which is great. And that allows you many different ways to build and to play it. But it still doesn't make it viable end game if that type of play style isn't for the end game. And that's why I brought up the whole you can run with that build, but then you run with the sorcerer, and it just doesn't matter.
yeah, I
Yeah,
can't really speak for Acolyte. Like I said, I haven't played it. But I mean, it is important. Like I guess it depends on what your goals are and if you have a static group to play with and how much you want to pug. Because there is definitely a point to where you need to be at least viable in order to play what most people are playing, which is like low Reaper in game.
Exactly. And I would say that most new players aren't playing with a static group. I would say most people download the game and probably just play it solo.
I
And
think
I
most people, new players, play it solo. I don't even think they touch pugs for quite a while. I mean, there's going to be exceptions, but I think most players play solo for quite a while that are new.
Yeah, that's a shame, man. I think that's a shame because I know you're an old time player. I don't know how long Kaleva's been playing, but man, when this game first came out, it was so much fun to play with a group. So much fun, and I still have fun playing in groups. It's just we get. I wish the new player could experience that too.
yeah. I started playing in 2009, 2010, after the free to play. Um, and to be honest, when I was a new player, I was like, "Hey, I want to make this character," and I always loved playing Rangers in pencil and paper, and I fell into that trap of I want to make my pencil and paper character in DDO, and I found out that it doesn't work that way. Um, but I didn't pug or join groups for the longest time. I just explored. But that's kind of how I like to learn something is I just go in and I explore it and then start talking to other people and reading forums and stuff like that about whatever it is. So
Yeah, and I will say there is the typical kind of Zerging LFM, but there are also a lot of vets that are, if you just tell them you're a new player, they will totally take you under their wing. I mean, like I personally will do that. Like I run raids every Saturday, and I always tell everyone, I don't care if you're first life on a path build, or if you're a veteran with 100 past lives, like you're welcome to join. I'll teach you the raids. I'll teach you quests or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of us like that. It's not just a community of people Zergan R1. A lot of people, if you do speak up, they will be happy to explain things to you or to give slower for you. Not everyone, like you shouldn't as a new player like join the superpower. People that are playing like High Reapers and stuff, obviously, but a lot of most groups, I would say, have people in there that are at least willing to help talk you through some stuff.
I totally agree with you. It's not a. I think we have a really good community in DDO, and I think everybody that plays DDO a lot, like we do, is wants it to succeed and wants to get it out there. It's not an issue with the community. It's an issue with the design of the game, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's some aspects of it just because so much power in DDO is not tied to your character, it's tied to the person in the chair and just knowledge. And you can't really take that away. I mean, there are some things they can do. I know several talked about potentially doing a power share system with Reaper points. I mean, maybe that'll help because it is a reality that the veterans that have been around forever have just accumulated past lives and Reaper points. So maybe if they redo that system, there can be some power sharing involved. I don't know. It's kind of a hard situation because they have to keep adding stuff to the game to keep the core players interested, keep giving us stuff to do. But at the same time, every time they do that, it does do exactly what you're talking about, which is make it harder for new players to really get into I guess the top difficulties. I still think you can totally, like, if you know what you're doing, which new players don't, admittedly, at least jump into like R1 stuff, even on first life character.
I think R1's totally doable, and I think you could get almost any build push through it, especially with the gear sets out there. But and I think some of the Reaper mode is really, really good because it offers the types of monsters that are unpredictable, and that unpredictability of the Reapers, where they teleport, who they attack, that's stuff they can keep. I think just the Reaper mode itself, it should be kind of looked at and then used to combat them in a way that you have time to debuff them, have time to apply damage, have time to do things. So it's not just, okay, well, my Sork has all the best raid loot. Everybody stand back. You're going to get burned by this fireball. Instead of that, because that's what it turns into. And it really invalidates any player's experience up until that point because they feel really powerful. Then they get into this group at whatever level, at whatever length of time they've been playing. And then this guy just blasts the whole quest. Like, dude, what am I doing playing this game? Why should I bother? And I don't want them to feel that way. I want them to feel like, oh no, dude, what do you have that one debuff? Like, use that one debuff here. It's perfect. That will now my web is gonna work. Perfect. Thanks, man. Like, just to help them, that they're part of the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a problem in a lot of games, though. It's just, I mean, the fact is the veterans are just going to be a lot better at the game. It's like say you're playing Call of Duty or something, you're playing with your friends, in front of your TV, and you're doing really well. But then you jump into a multiplayer game online, you get destroyed. It's kind of the same thing. It's just, I don't know what they can do about that. Just veterans just have really learned how to optimize, and that's something you can only do with experience. And yeah, it's just part of the learning curve, I guess, for new players. You're going to
yeah,
get destroyed when you walk into Reaper for the first time. You're not going to be that helpful, but as time goes on, you'll learn to get better. And maybe if you want to, you can do things solo to learn quests. There's a lot of resources out there, but yeah, I mean, it's just kind of part of the learning curve, I think. But I don't know what they can really do about that other than maybe reduce the gap a bit through that Reaper sharing system that Severlin has talked about, if that ever happens.
yeah, and for sure, anytime you have a game that's been around for 17 years now or anything like that, there's gonna be people that just know what to do. Like there's some quests where you're just running through and you're kind of operating on muscle memory, right? But so that's just part of it. But I do kind of want to move on a little bit from that topic, and so the game has been around for 17 years, and the 17th anniversary party is ending this weekend. So everybody that wants to get stuff, you need to hurry up and finish that up. I know, Axel, you said you had some. You've run it a lot. So what do you talk about that, or would you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, like the anniversary party has some good stuff. Like everyone should at least get, I mean, if you spend any amount of time at heroics, low level heroics, especially if you don't have the teleport clickies from the expansion, you should really at least get the Storm Reach. What is it, D12, I think it is. That it's basically a teleport clicky to the marketplace. Definitely get that. There's some other good stuff there, like the Kobold gem. The Kobold's fun. The caster sticks in there, the forum posts are not, like best in the game or anything, but they can be really good at certain level ranges. They're a good option. Might be preferable to get that instead of grinding out a specific caster stick, say from like Peril, the Planar Rise or something. So that's something you could look at. But I don't know. Were you wanting to talk about the dungeon itself, or what exactly, Cleva?
Yeah, the dungeon itself. Like, I know some approaches are to get a group and everybody goes and does one star objective and just kind of like plows through it to get the lessen the grind or make it run faster, however you want to say it. But I think there's a lot of cool stuff and flavor hidden inside the anniversary party as well. So I don't know if you have explored any of that or had any comments on it, or
Yeah, like I think everyone should go in there solo one time just to really flower sniff it because there's a lot of stuff in there. Like you got the hardcore the hardcore leaders there on the top floor. You've got a lot of Easter eggs, say with like former employees who are the skeletons, in the Cobalt Theater room. A lot of former employees and producers from SSG and well Turbine as well back in the day are down there. So there's a lot. I mean, obviously the enemies are named after the devs, but you can just look at their dialogue. Just there's all kinds of stuff in there. Everyone should definitely flower sift it one time, and then after you've flower sifted it for one time, never solo it again. Because if you wanna farm ingredients, you got to do it in a group. Like this is event's very different. This event dungeon than say the Night Revels or Snow Peaks, in that it totally disincentivizes you from soloing. Like if you solo to farm ingredients in this dungeon, you're in for probably not a very fun time because it's going to take you way longer just because all of the objectives are spread out behind different load screens and in different directions. And there's also a run part, so you got to run through the Cobalt hallway to get to the end theater part, to get to Militia, to get to Cheats' mind and all that. And that's a rather long run, so you're going to want, if you can, to optimize your farming. You're going to want to have, if you can have a favorite soul or a monk or someone fast to backseat whatever, do the run while everyone else kind of splits up and hits the different the developers that are spread out behind different load screens. That's really the way to do it. For sure. I mean, I would, again, do not solo if you're looking to grind it for ingredients. Try to get a group, which unfortunately, because of the way it being a challenge dungeon, in the level range being pretty restrictive, to get max party favors, that may not be too easy sometimes, but definitely get a group if you can. But first time, go in there and flower sniff just to see all the goodies. That's my opinion.
yeah, for sure. I agree. I've been in some groups for the anniversary event where the person that was doing the Kobold run was already done and talking to militia before all the other bosses were killed. So it's just it can be done super fast, and you can get the items, or you can get your party favors so you can get the items that you want. Uh, One of the items that I particularly like is the Kobold sentient gem, but I like that the, I've liked the Kobold voices ever since Crystal Cove. So that's why I'm personally drawn towards the Kobold gem. But you're right, Axel. It's very different than the other events. So it's
Yeah, it's different. Like some of these events, like Crystal Cove and the anniversary event, really incentivize grouping. Whereas Night Revels, Snow Peaks, those type of events really kind of incentivize the opposite. Honestly, I mean, obviously you can group for like Night Revels or whatever, but I don't think you can really go slow. If you know what you're doing solo, you're really not going to go much slower. And for certain things like key farming and Night Revels, I would say it's probably much better to go solo.
yeah, and some of the challenges for even for ingredient farming and night revels, they can be done in uh on a fairly powerful character. You can get them done in about a minute, and even in a group, I was experiencing that time drop to 55 seconds, or at best, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with the anniversary event, you're going to go from, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, 20 minutes to 5 minutes. It's that kind of difference.
Yeah, 5 minutes definitely doable, yeah, in a group. But yeah, it's a big difference. And it just comes down to the way the dungeon's designed, with the objectives being in different directions and them all being behind load screens. It's super incentivizes grouping. So I've heard a lot of players kind of complain about it being really grindy, and it is if you don't group. You gotta group for the anniversary event if you want a lot of things. I mean, you just want to grind out one thing like the Storm Reach D12. All right, fine. I mean, you can get that done probably solo in, I don't know, a few hours maybe, but solo or in a group, you can definitely get 13 party favors every 5 minutes or so. So I really recommend players do that.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have anything to add to the anniversary events in it, or challenges in general?
No, I had a great time playing them. They're fun.
All right, so the last thing that I kind of wanted to discuss on today's show is the newest quest and the storyline with that. I know I've run it a couple times, and it's the quest is nice. It's I don't easy with my doing air quotes, linear. That's probably the better word for it. One thing I do find interesting is that the king rat has a mysterious remnant in his head. So, um, and I know the mysterious remnants came out with around the time the gatekeepers did and all that. So it's like, um, story wise, I'm curious to see where it's going to go, and I've started to look for potential clues in some of the earlier quests and stuff like that. But just I'd like to get your opinion on that, Axel, and it or on the quest, on the update, and where the storyline is going. I know personally, I'm also excited to go back to Drome, which I know we're doing later on in the year, but so that'd be fun.
Yeah, like I personally don't have a great sense of where they're going exactly with the storyline for that new quest. I don't know. I'll be looking forward to seeing what they're doing here, but I don't know. I really don't have a good sense of that at all. I mean, other than obviously the stuff leading up from the Grip of the Hidden Hand, which is going to tie into the expansion, obviously. But when it comes to the new quest specifically, the rats being turned into uh, whatever they were called in there, what champions or whatever. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I don't know exactly what they're doing with that.
Yeah, and I think I probably caught the community off, um, or surprised a lot of people with that, like just a mysterious remnant. And I've seen some conspiracy theories about with the cranium rats in the city of sigils, and it kind of fits lore wise with or well, like the city of sigil with them planar peril of the. I always want to say peril of the planar eyes, or whenever I talk about planar eyes. But with them being gateways to the different planes and Eberron and stuff, and the city of sigils being a gateway, so that's something that I've seen out there. So it's interesting, and one of the things I've liked about DDO is the different storylines in there. There's no one main one really in the game. There's all these little things that are available to play, and you don't have to do quest after quest to beat it.
Yeah, I kind of am looking forward to them though getting the Planarize storyline finished up, just because it's been going on for since what 2020 with Lost Gatekeeper or something like that. So I'm looking forward to getting that wrapped up and going forward with something maybe 2024 different, or maybe a revisit to Ravenloft. There's just something different from the Planarized thing. You're right that there isn't any one storyline, but they tend to pick these. They do pick sub storylines like the Planarized one where when they'll stick with it for a few years seems to have been the pattern here. So and then there's also the codex pages, but we'll see. We'll see. I would like to see something weird in 2024, like the astral plane, or even a return to Ravenloft, something like that.
Yeah, for sure. They do or they have been on this storyline for quite a while, and at the same time, I'm excited for it to see where it's going. I'm also kind of ready for it to be done. So
Yeah,
it's
same here. Like it's not a bad storyline. It's just I'm ready to move on to something else, something different. I will say the quest itself I actually quite liked. It's charming. The rats are charming. I always like quests where you go from you start in one environment and you go through many different environments. So you do start in the docks, and then you go through, I guess, the underground. You find the town. I kind of like that. It adds a little bit of immersion rather than just going to a quest and all being the same textures everywhere.
yeah, that's one thing I like about this quest too, is that it is a little bit over the place, all over the place. But it's not like you're getting lost anywhere either. It's pretty linear. There's a lot to it. Um, and so I thought the quest itself was well done.
Yeah, on difficulty wise, it is a little on the. Did you all find that it was on the easier side? Because that was my experience.
Yeah, as far as
Like in
the
terms of challenge, like challenge of the
yeah,
mobs.
yeah, as
Yeah,
far as the overall difficulty goes, it's on the easier side.
yeah, which is
So
okay. I'm not complaining about that at all. I just just saying that was my experience with it. So if people are shy from just trying it first time on, Reaper or whatever, give it a shot.
yeah, that's one of the things that I've noticed with like being on the TR train in general is that it's like right now I'm playing a Purple Dragon Knight. So I've got my one fighter level, but then I've got 6 levels of cleric, and then the rest is barbarian. So it's like it's a mixed bag, and it works well in some of the older content, or like it works really well in some of the older content, but the newer content, I get my butt kicked. So, but sometimes there's just a stark or a drastic difference in the difficulty of a quest or a pack. It's like I could tear through Giant Hold on some builds, but then I go into Sharn and I feel like I'm way underpowered and undergeared, even though not much has changed.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the characters I play, but I have found that certainly like some in-game content, like Sharn, just in Feywild feels harder to me than say Saltmarsh. That's just been my experience. But I will say that the new quest I did run it on R10 in a group, and it felt easier to me than High Skull content for the regular Shard chain. I mean, I guess just because in a Forge race and you're mostly fighting rats, maybe that's why. But it did not. It felt easier to me than Shard, the regular Shard content, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird too, like the whole Planar Eyes chain and the Morgrave University and all that stuff. It feels like for me it starts out at a higher difficulty, and it's probably entirely the mobs, and like the one with the slots in it. I can't think of the name of it right now, but that one, sometimes I feel like that is almost the most difficult quest as far as difficulty. But then it kind of gets levels off and becomes a bit easier, and then it just kind of coasts at that. Whereas like in Sharn, C1 and C2 are roughly the same, but then and maybe it's just me too. I struggle in the Docks quest. Like they just feel more difficult than the other ones do.
It's been my experience too. Yeah, I think it's just down to the mob, especially with the Forge rates and Sharn. They're pretty rough.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a comment that says the reflex saves, Sharn and Faye have better dex characters and more rogues. So yeah, you had said that you're fighting rats in the newest quest, whereas Forge are an entirely different mob, and so that's where you know some of that earlier discussion where the person in the chair knowing the game and the game knowledge trumping everything else, like that's if you don't have that, then it doesn't matter what build you're playing. So
Exactly. Yep.
uh, um uh that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk with y'all about. I don't know if you have any final comments or anything like that on the show.
Oh, I'm just all I want to say is I'm really happy to see you picked up the show and that DDOcast is continuing. I've been on a guest on here a bunch of times, but I've also, even way before I was a guest, I've been a listener since, Siegfried and Trent and Ann were doing it. So I'm really happy that you picked up the show. And if you need anything, let me know.
I appreciate the support. And I too have been listening since well, off and on. I started listening when Sig and Ann were doing the show, so I'm excited to do it. And I just hope I'm doing a good enough job. But we are our own we are our own worst critics.
So is Cordovan before the other two people you mentioned? Is he previous to them?
Yes. Yeah, he was the original host, and then it went to Siegfried, Trent, and Ann, and then it went to Patrick, and now it's at Caleb.
So I must have missed that. The next two, I remember when Cordovan was running it. I listened to all his, and then I caught most of Patrick's, and I've watched it all the way up through to when Kaleva took over. So, I just feel like kind of responsible because I've spent so much money on the game and time that I want it to succeed. So I want Kaleva to succeed, DDOcast to succeed, and DDO to continue.
I appreciate the support, and I want it to succeed too. And it was one of the things. Like I was so nervous about doing this because, like, I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then Patrick, he kind of told me, he's like, "All right, here you go." And I was like, "Oh no, oh, what did I get myself into?"
You'll be fine. We're all just people. We're all just humans.
When I saw the post on the forums, and I'm like, "Who's got the? Can you say cojones? Like, who's got the stones to answer that?" You just frig no, like jumped right off the cliff. Like, yeah, I'll do that. The parachute's working. I'll figure that out before I hit the bottom. I was like, that's I respect that a lot. So.
That's the story of my life. Is I fake it till I make it. Oh, charge in head first.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
That is a very important philosophy in life. I tell you right now, it really is.
Yep. So, I appreciate you guys coming on. And one thing I've been doing with DDOcast too is highlighting a creator or content creator every week. And so this week, because I've got both of you guys on, gonna give both of you guys a chance to like plug your show. I know Alex, you did it a little, or Axel, you did it a little bit earlier.
Either's fine.
So, yeah. So Axel, Alex K, you stream on Twitch. You have a YouTube channel. So I've watched your Twitch streams a little bit, and I like it. On Saturdays, you hosting the raids over on Talanis, and you stream other times too, correct?
Yeah, so I do stream. The only regular time I have right now is Saturdays. I start at 1 p.m. Eastern, and I continue through most of the day. And we also stream raids on Thalanis. We start at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, other than that, during the week, I don't have a set time during the week, but whenever I can, you can find me streaming during the week, usually starting between say like 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. Eastern time for a few hours in the evenings, and then on top of that, I do have the YouTube channel, Axel's DDO channel on YouTube, so I upload videos there periodically, and I've been doing that since 2014. I've been doing it forever on YouTube, but Twitch, I'm fairly new still. I've been doing Twitch for about a year and a half at this point on a semi-regular basis. So, and just recently started doing it on a regular basis with the Saturday 1 p.m. streams. So, yeah, it's fun. I'm enjoying it.
That's awesome. And Zidit, your podcast is DDO DM. Can you give us a little rundown on that one?
Sure. So it's pretty new, and I'm kind of finding my footing there. So I'm still learning a lot, and it's kind of turned into this thing where I guess each episode that I'll do, we'll talk about some of the lore about Eberron, and then build a character with that knowledge. So people can kind of have a tabletop like experience with DDO if they're not familiar with that aspect or how that works, and then how you translate that into like a gameplay mechanic. So this next one that I got coming up is it's going to be all about the Dragonborn, and we're going to touch on the Draconic prophecy, and then maybe some of the there's actually an error in DDO with some of the Draconic prophecies and how the dragons work with the Giant Hold storyline in particular. It's not a big one, but I just happened to stumble across it while I was reading up on it. So we'll point that out, not in a bad way, just in a tongue-in-cheek way, and then we'll build a shaman character and take him into Stormreach.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've listened a little bit to your podcast, and that's one. I try to check out all of the creators, and because I think the DDO. I don't think the DDO community is awesome. They are awesome. It's an awesome community, but sometimes I don't know. I want all of the content creators to succeed, and because it will help the game in overall. So, but with that, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the show. Thanks to everybody that tuned in, all the comments and chat and everything. Appreciate it. Thank you to our guests, Axel, Alex K, and Zidit. Thank you guys for coming on and spending an hour of your time with me today.
Thanks, man. Good luck with the show, and if you need anything, like Axel said, I'll help out any way I can.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun.
I appreciate it so much. And if the listeners, you want to support the show, you can visit our website at DDOcast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO themed webpage or your Twitch content creator, you want to be featured on the website, email me at ddocast@gmail.com. Or if you have a comment on this episode, have a question you'd like to hear us answer, topic you'd like to discuss, just want to say hi, send us an email at ddocast@gmail.com. And so until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits and all your chests level appropriate. Have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.